Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, welcome back to a high level game of StarCraft 2. Today we have Astrea versus ByuN. This is a very special little game for me because Astrea recently has been performing honestly fantastic in this matchup. I believe it was 2 weeks ago where he took out Cure and took out Clem in an ESL Open Cup. I believe 2-0, 2-1. Can't quite remember who took the map of him, but yeah, I mean, Cure and Clem are absolutely no walkovers in this matchup. Now, I do believe that ByuN has a bit of a different style than majority of the Terran players. ByuN's play tends to be very focused around either early 3 Rex pressure or a quick 3rd CC into those 3 barracks. So really kind of steering clear of those early factory openers, but we'll have to wait and see if that is going to be the case here or not. ByuN, of course, also a player that does not mind just not scouting in the early game. And Astrea has shown great diversity in that early game, opening up with proxy gates, opening up with robo openers, Stargate openers, Twilight openers. He is capable of playing every single opener at a relatively high level. He understands how the early game works. And I think these things tend to be the most important. If you just kind of understand how the early game works, you can often kind of leverage that either into a mid-game win or get into the late game while being ahead containing the Terran. So we'll have to wait and see, figure out what Astrea's plans are. We do have a Reaper opener here out of ByuN without a scout whatsoever, which means that, well, he's going to be pretty blind until this Reaper comes out. Astrea is patrolling this probe on the ramp. Now that might look weird, but the reason he does that is because he wants to figure out whether this is a Marine first or a Reaper first. The Marine pops at 146, 145, 147, depending on the SEV micro of the Terran player, and Astrea decides, after not seeing anything pop, at 140-ish or 146-ish, he decides to go away and just hide under this mineral patch. Cute little place to hide, by the way. I hadn't quite seen that yet. Because even if the Reaper would see you from this side, the Reaper would not be capable of doing anything whatsoever because there's mineral patches in between. So it really is quite a cute little spot. Follow-up will be the double Marauder play. This is something that ByuN has shown time and time again to be really comfortable with this build order. To my great surprise, honestly, because I don't really see any major purpose for this build. We also actually see Astrea opening up with a rather rapid Stargate here. So that quick Stargate is going to allow him to deal with these 2 Marauders very well. The follow-up here is going to be a couple of extra barracks, so we do have that fast factory. Will be used to either get a mine or maybe a fast cyclone and then into a 3 rack. So this is just an opener that is similar to what we saw some of the Terrans try on Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. I believe that this specific type of style was actually invented by Maru. At least that's what Ryung told me when I spoke to him at Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. The factory into the triple racks, and it's just extremely popular right now in Korea. As we do see the 3rd barracks go down, this hasn't really taken off yet in Europe. This type of build order definitely hasn't taken off yet. The factory into triple racks. I'm not quite sure why that is, but it is just a fact that there are not a lot of European Terrans playing this right now, while there are a lot of Korean Terrans playing this. And whether that is because the Protosses play different in Europe, or whether it's because the Terrans like their own little style they have and don't really trust in the Korean build orders, I can't really answer that, of course. It's difficult. These type of meta differences between the servers are often difficult to explain. So that first Cyclone is out, second Cyclone on the way as well. Now, we should keep in mind that a lot has been invested in things that have no real purpose so far. So we have these double Marauders. They're not going to be able to move across the map and do any damage whatsoever. There's going to be 2 Cyclones here, which will be honestly largely useless as well. This is a barracks that is producing without a tech lab. That could indicate that ByuN wants to push out with this. So he is slightly supply blocked. Okay, now he's going to swap these 2. Okay, this is a cute little move. I like that. Then we'll see the combat shield start here. Obviously the starport starting immediately as well. Well, these 2 Phoenixes are trying to get a little bit of damage done. Ooh, 1 Phoenix actually perhaps in trouble. Good scan here out of ByuN. Is going to pick off 1 Phoenix for free and starts moving across the map. Now this move out in my mind, is not going to be a move out that will kill Astrea, but it is a move out that forces out a couple of gateway units. And as a Protoss player, building gateway units is one of these things that you don't really want to be doing. I mean, especially not when you're playing Phoenix Colossi. You want to be getting these big units out of your Stargate and out of your Robo. So we do see one of these Immortals pop now. Another Phoenix does get taken out. So 2 Phoenixes have died. Don't forget that there is a bit of a timer on these Cyclones. The moment the armies get bigger, Cyclones naturally just become complete garbage. They go very quickly from being a unit that is quite nice to have to being a unit that you'd rather not have just to free up supply. Like, it is a completely useless unit in the mid and the late game. So ByuN kind of wants to get rid of this, but he also just doesn't want to throw it away. Stim finishes up here. This actually might have some potential, this little push. There's no battery yet here, so Stim can be used right now. 550 into the game. Sentry's gonna get sniped. No, first the Immortal. Lots of damage output because of these Marines, because of these 4 Marauders here. The Colossi does end up popping, but this has been a fantastic opener here for ByuN. Units lost kind of showing that as well, of course. And just look at this. 1 Reaper, 2 Cyclones, and 2 Marines. And you trade that for an Immortal, 2 Sentries, and 2 Phoenixes. That's a fantastic trade, because both the Reaper and the 2 Cyclones are units that are there for safety initially, or for scouting. Reaper for scouting, Cyclone for safety. If you can get any use out of those whatsoever, if you can actually trade them rather than just losing, that is always good. Even if they would have been traded for like 2 Zealots. A Cyclone for 2 Zealots is usually a good trade, because you build the Cyclone for safety, and once it has provided the safety, the unit just falls off a freaking cliff. So yeah, ByuN once again trying to continue with this drop, but does get spotted by this probe. Oh, Phoenix is not in position though. Is there a recall available? There is not. Now these 4 Phoenixes are trying to get back home, but there's plenty of Marines that should be capable of zoning these bad boys out. Now this Forge is going to get sniped. We have another army moving in towards the 3rd base. We have some major multitasking going on here out of ByuN. ByuN takes a decent trade in the main base. Needs to be careful with these pickups though, because one of these medevacs already getting pretty low. Oh my god, this Colossi is actually going to fall. No, it's not. Super battery gets activated in the main. Good lifts there out of Astrea, who will keep absolutely everything alive. This medevac will fall, which means that every last Marauder will also die. And honestly, this trade, at the end of the day, probably was kind of beneficial here for Astrea, who, well, before he wasn't in a great spot. Now we see the units lost that pretty even. The only problem here, of course, being that his Forge did get taken out, so he's going to be kind of lacking in the upgrade department. He already was a little bit behind. Yeah, okay. And kind of to compensate for that fact, he says, hey, I killed a bunch of your army, but I lost my upgrades. I will get the double Forges this time around. Try to catch up in those, because I know that my army is absolutely fabulous, and that obviously is the case here. There's not a turret yet. Turret is about to finish up. Luckily for ByuN, these Phoenixes are out of energy. Will not be capable of picking up 4 or 5 workers there. Now he's going to hit your eco a little bit, and it's just annoying. Phoenixes throughout the game can provide so much value for a Protoss player. And they already have, honestly. They really have provided a lot of value already here for Astrea. Astrea with good map vision as well. Probe over here. Pylons on the left side. A little probe trying to take a forward base, and there's an observer moving forward into this area as well. Phoenixes are going in for the spot. They see this army move out, and with 6 Phoenixes around, there's a lot of Marauders. There's 1 tank, but 5 or 6 lifts on this army, and then triple Colossi, a couple of Zealots with charge. All of a sudden that army doesn't look so scary anymore here. So ByuN probably wisely decides to move back until at least his ghosts arrive. But even with this army, I am doubtful that this will be capable of taking on Astrea's army. And I don't think I'm overestimating Astrea's army here. Astrea tries to pick up some reinforcement. As a result, his Phoenixes are going to be a little bit late. Now they start coming back. 1 pickup. Can we get a couple more? I think that would have been helpful. Big EMP connecting with these Phoenixes though means they can't pick up anything right now. 4 Colossi are out, but the Zealots have gone down. Marauders kind of jump forward, trying to take out Colossi. We'll get a single Colossi, but even without the energy on the Phoenixes and only with a single lift during this entire fight, I think Astrea did a pretty decent job here. I mean, he completely clears the Marauder count. It's still at 8, but most of these have been either recently built or like I think 1 or 2 might have stayed alive. Oh, Phoenixes will not spot the medevacs here. But the medevacs decide to drop down their units anyway, probably afraid of these phoenixes. So yeah, imagine if there were 4 or 5 lifts in that fight. I think Astrea just gets a complete swipe there. It's a crazy little engagement already. 1-1 is finally about to finish up for him, so he evens up the upgrades, second eBay, as well as an armory here for ByuN. And that means that both players will be heading into 2-2 relatively quickly. Now the tech, how would I prefer that? Let me see. There's triple Archons here. There's 10 Zealots, 4 Colossi, 8 Phoenixes and a Sentry. So this entire army is very vulnerable to EMPs. Getting 4 to 5 Ghost out at this point would be extremely beneficial for Terran. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. Getting Ghost 3 and 4. At the same time, we also have the Barracks 6, 7 and 8, I think, finishing up. Yeah. So going up to 8 Barracks here is ByuN. This is just this is a scary army to fight against for both players. So I think right now ByuN can't really fight this, but we see two more ghosts coming out, big marauder production as well, more medevacs. And once ByuN starts hitting 180, 190, 200 supply, he'll be fighting Astrea's army, which does not really have a good secondary AoE damage output yet. I mean, there's going to be 1, perhaps 2 disruptors, but the rest of it is just going to be the pure Colossi splash. Now that isn't great against Marauders usually. So and then with the EMP, like the Archons, they're just not going to survive for very long. So I'm kind of afraid right now for Astrea. And although he's still up in supply, ooh, what was that movement? Some cheeky movement there with the Purification Nova. Maybe trying to trick ByuN. I'm not quite sure what the trick was there. I don't think ByuN understood the trick either, so perhaps we can call the trick successful. Yeah, look at this. Lots of EMPs going down right now. Now there are a lot of units here, and ByuN actually split off half of his armies, perhaps trying to come in for a bit of a flank here. Managed to hit majority of these EMPs, but these Archons still relatively high. Colossi now getting picked up from the back. So a bunch of these Archons are also going to fall. This fight is going slightly better than I thought it should have for Astrea, but he is running out of steam right now with a lot of these Zealots having disappeared. Archon count being pretty much decimated. Don't forget, ooh, this was a very high value army here for Astrea. And he's just getting picked up. There's still 8 Phoenixes alive though, and now the Disruptor count is starting to grow. A new Colossi being built as well, ship weapons on the way. ByuN obviously needs to wait until his 2-2 finishes. Does not want to be fighting a Protoss army while he's down 2 upgrades. That generally is a mistake, fighting while being down upgrades, not having any major advantage in the game. We see Liberators on the way, as well as a Fusion Core, so perhaps Liberators will be the next step. Ooh, Ghost will be capable of taking out these Phoenixes. It's kind of funny to see this, is that there's like 5 Marines in this entire army. Like here, there's like 6 Marines here. The rest is just Marauders. That means that the damage output against Zealot isn't necessarily brilliant, but the EMP should be capable of taking care of that. We have a couple of big EMPs on these Archons as well. Zealot's kind of forming a semi-surround as every single medevac gets taken out by the Phoenixes. There's no +1 on these Phoenixes, but it doesn't really seem to matter. So we get another full army cleanup here. Next 2 medevacs are out, but Astrea with a big win. And now kind of wanting to leverage that win in the middle of the map, trying to take the fight to one of ByuN's bases. Lips are out, but you can of course navigate around that. I mean, if the lips set up over here, you start attacking the left side base. If the lips are set up over on the left side base, you start moving in towards the third. Taking out the rocks is definitely a viable option to open up another attack path here to kind of force the Terran to split up his army, or split up these Liberators at least, making everything just a little bit weaker. We have a double expand coming out of Astrea, so both expanding towards that bottom left as well as to the 2 o'clock base. And I don't entirely understand it, because I think he's just kind of spreading himself thin. But maybe against Liberators it's not even that bad of a choice. I mean, having extra bases against an army that wants to siege forward and then kill a base, this might allow you to give up a base if you don't want to defend it. And obviously Liberators in position can be tricky to deal with. It also exposes you to drops though, and that is something that Astrea does need to keep in mind. 50C is on the way right here for ByuN, who is going to be fighting against 7 bases soon. These lips are not in the correct position. 3-3 hasn't started either, so ByuN is in a little bit of trouble here. He really is. This army out of Astrea is starting to look really powerful as well. Big disruptor shot, not quite going to connect with what he wanted to connect with. and this drop is going to definitely connect with that Nexus. We immediately see Astrea with a big recall, and ByuN realizes that and decides to not actually engage into this army. There's no medevacs with this. The Prism might get taken out. These Liberators are moving forward as well. The complete lack of 3-3 here is what worries me for ByuN, because he's going to be fighting better upgrades for the next, well, the next 2.5 minutes, depending a bit when he decides to start his next upgrades, his next set of upgrades. I do believe he lost both his eBay and his armory, by the way. So we literally only have a single eBay left right now. So first we'll need to rebuild the armory, then rebuild an eBay. Liberators are moving in position right now. Big scan as well. Huge EMPs. Actually covering majority of that army right there. These Liberators are gonna get taken out by the Phoenixes. That is a big deal. There's not that many Marines in this army. And 3 Liberators get taken out before anything truly happens. Part of the Bio army also gets destroyed. This medevac is also dead. It continuously looks like ByuN has a big army supply-wise, but then when we look at the army, the actual quality of it is never that great. Now, big blink in forward here out of Astrea, who feels like he might just be capable of finishing this game right now, with the Phoenix is still alive from that early game, helping taking out every single medevac. ByuN is desperately trying to kite back. I just don't think it's going to be enough. Another stim gets used, but no medevacs are here. That means that every stim is going to hurt so much. One medevac finally does show up, but I mean, one medevac on what, like 40 Marauders, 60 Marauders. 40 might be a slight over exaggeration. And even with double Liberators in position, I mean, these Libs only have +1 as well, so they're not even 2-shotting Stalkers, they're not 1-shotting Stalker after an EMP. Like, this is just absolute pain here for ByuN. Astrea goes up this ramp. This is a tiny ramp, all 4 shots on the same spot as well. And definitely a mistake here out of the American Protoss player. Just need to calm down a bit, wait for these disruptors to come back off cooldown, and then perhaps start making moves again. Prism is close by to reinforce, and as there's 14 gateways, those reinforcements will be rather quick. This is an orbital command here on the far left side. It was providing a lot of income. GG, says ByuN, after all of these mules that he had over here just get taken out. I mean, these were 6 fresh mules, you know. Without these mules, he hardly has any income left. He has no medevacs. I completely understand the tap out here. 7 base against 4 for a very long time as well. Yeah, GG. Completely understandable. That's going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thank you, and bye-bye.